Brian Hampshire, 27, occupation, racing car manufacturer. This chassis is the brainchild of a four-man syndicate. And part of one of the most successful teams in sports car and racing history. All with one object in mind: to win races and to win customers, to keep Britain in the lead in the most competitive sport of all. Brian Hampshire is at the beginning of the long road that ends at the checkered flag of racing victory. A lone figure, pitting his wits and engineering skill against the vast resources of the famous names in racing. But they too, almost every one, began like this. Brian is building this car in London, in his mother's bedroom. But however much you do yourself, it takes money. Brian Hampshire's capital came from tragedy. He was set upon in the street by thugs and badly beaten up. For his injuries, which stopped him racing, he got compensation, and it was this money that gave him his start. So far, he has spent 6 months and £1,700 on this Formula 4 car, the Bryham, from his name, Brian Hampshire. Very little of the car is standard. It's more his own manufacture than the majority of vehicles that find their way onto the track. The Piper. From original drawings, a plaster model is made, sectioned up to scale, a pattern which becomes the fiberglass shell of the car. Piper have reached the next stage of the race to the start, one beyond Brian Hampshire. A syndicate of 4, based at a garage in Hayes, Kent, they're in their 2nd year and have already sold 6 cars, including one to the States. Bob Gaylor is the technical brains of the outfit. Modifications, some secret, are going to develop 320 bhp from a 1600cc engine. At the moment, 205 bhp is thought pretty remarkable. Designer Tony Hilda is also doing revolutionary things. Here he's at work on the body of the road and racing GT car. Production of this model may soon mount to more than 1 per week. Good going in a year. Number 1 brain of a brainy quartet is the ever trilby-hatted George Henrott. An ex-racing driver who built his own cars, 5 of them, because he couldn't afford to buy them. He went into the garage business in order to have somewhere to keep his races. The Piper began as a spare-time hobby. Now it's beginning to be big business. Not yet, though, anywhere near as big as Lotus, one of the shining success stories of British racing, and essentially the brainchild of one man. Colin Chapman, away building up his overseas sales when Look at Life called at his brand new Norfolk factory, is that man. An almost unique blend of talents for design, development, pit work and selling, Chapman was once where young Brian Hampshire is now. It took him 15 years to make the breakthrough. Now this factory has a working force of over 500. Chapman himself says that designing road cars is 10 times more difficult than designing racing cars, and the road to the Elan has been a long and arduous one. Over 10 years since the idea was born. But it's racing that brings the fame that nets the fortune. And replacing the racing version of the Elan is the Mark 47, which got off to a flying start by winning its first race. And they all meet at the Racing Car Show in London. The show was the first in the world to achieve international status. In 1967, over 100 companies exhibited. Enthusiasts saw the new Mark 47. Brian Hampshire was barely ready, but even without top sections, his car drew 5 orders, a subject of test. Piper did well with over 500 serious inquiries and a dozen orders before the car was even finished. Star of the show was champion Jack Brabham's Formula One Repco Brabham, which can exceed 170 miles an hour. A Lotus customer tries out his new car for size. Testing, perhaps the most important stage in the development of any car, whether designed for track or road. Not only performance is at stake, but this is where lives are saved by the merciless testing of tires, brakes, steering, and the safety factors that go towards reducing road and track risks. Henroth's precious single-seater Formula 3 racer starts off for a testing session. He won't drive himself. A bad smash-up at Brands Hatch in 55 put paid to that. So hang on behind ex-Autosport champion Sid Fox as he calls the tune for the Piper. Testing will go on for many days. Fox is feeling for the natural behavior of the car, which must react exactly to the will of the driver. On this occasion, he discovered that the front roll bar needed strengthening. Increasing roll resistance subsequently led to the discovery of another fault. The rear springs were too strong. The perfect car has never been built, never will be built. The winning car is the one with the fewest faults. Car racing has become one of the most popular spectator sports in the world. But, as we've seen, the race itself is only the tip of the iceberg. The greatest part of the race has been won or lost before the fans arrive. Glamour and racing go hand in hand. In this case, wash leather in hand. The first motor race was run in France in 1894 for Voitures sans chevaux, carriages without horses. It was won by a steam tractor. The first car proper to finish averaged 11.4 miles an hour. Only 70-odd years ago, barely a single lifetime. Almost everything that goes under the bonnet was invented in the first few years. From then on, the story has been one of a continuing search for improvement, involving many millions of money, many thousands of fanatically determined people, racing to win in the race to the start and beyond it to the finish.